Hello and welcome to The Insider, a show designed to clue you into the biggest news, events and announcements inside the video games industry, discussing with you some things you may know, some things you may not, and the glue that holds it all together is a little bit of my own opinion. My name is Paul James, thank you very much for watching, and let's get for their episode. A very special E3 episode.
I'm so sorry, I did not know they had changed your entrance, so my
Changes
apologies.
every day, every second's a change.
So the next publisher to have their E3 2018 press conference was Ubisoft, and they had a fairly solid showing. In this episode of The Insider, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly from their showcase this year and break down for you some of those details. So let's go along for the ride.
I am an optimistic guy, and I am particularly excited about the future of technology and the positive role games will play in shaping our society. To create these games, we need to work even more openly with you, the gamers, because we know when we do that together, everything gets better. So have a great E3. Thank you very much.
So let's start by talking about a lot of the good things that occurred at Ubisoft's showcase for E3 2018. And they actually kicked the show off in really entertaining fashion, and one that I wouldn't typically expect to entertain me. They opened the show with Just Dance 2019, and it was this very circusy, stage showy, sort of inspired setup there. We had performing artists all over the place. I don't mean musical ones, I'm talking about performing arts. And they were bouncing around, lots of acrobatics and maneuvers, and it was to the backing of some fairly simple sort of tune there. And it really got the energy going. It was really quite cool. I was a little bit confused by the panda that was bouncing around in the costume. I didn't quite get that. I was hoping that, until it started doing cartwheels, that Yves Guillemot was going to be hiding inside that. That would have been particularly entertaining. But it was a cool way to start the show. It wasn't what I was expecting, nor was it what I wanted going into it, but I was really happy they went there. It was a nice, endearing start to the show. They then next spoke about Beyond Good and Evil 2, a game that they announced last E3 and have had people on tenterhooks super excited for this game for a long time. And they showed off another trailer. They gave us some very early alpha slices of gameplay there that kind of showed off a little bit more about how we'll be interacting in the world. We saw Jade causing some problems. We discovered this is a prequel to the original game despite being called Beyond Good and Evil 2. There's some weird naming conventions going on. Welcome to video games. There's some interesting things going on with this game. Do yourself a favor and go out and check out what they're doing with it. It's really quite cool. So there were some more cool things that they showed. They debuted Trials Rising, a game that is just another game in the Trials franchise. It certainly looked like more of the same, but there is an increased emphasis on multiplayer, and the game is coming in February 2019. I hope for their sake it's nice and early so that they get as far away as possible from that ugly February 22nd release date that now has Anthem, that has Days Gone, that has Metro, and there's one more that escapes me right now. There's games queuing up left, right and center for that end of February period, and if they're going in February, they need to get out really early and put some distance between themselves and the rest of those games, because whilst these IP don't necessarily have much crossover in terms of their audiences, they're going to suck up a lot of the conversation, and that's really important to Ubisoft when they're trying to put out a smaller franchise such as Trials. The Division 2 got another showing. We got a really cool trailer that it was a tone piece more than anything else, but it set up the world that we're going to be in. It's looking really interesting. They then spoke about the gameplay and what we'll be doing, and it kind of linked into what we saw with Microsoft the day before. There was some really cool things going on with the Division 2. They spoke about their post-release content plan, the fact that there is 3 free episodes that'll be coming out over the course of year 1. They very clearly said year 1, so we're going to get a year 2, maybe a year 3. The Ubisoft model of the last few years, where they continue to support and roll out content for their games. All that content for year 1 is free. I thought that was fantastic. It was a great initiative, and the way they spoke about their post-release content, and even ignoring post-release, their end game content, shows that Ubisoft has been paying close attention to the successes of Destiny and the failures of Destiny, as well as the likes of Monster Hunter and even the original Division. They've taken on board the feedback that those games have all received, they've applied it to the Division 2, and things are looking really good. I'm really excited to see what they do with this game, and it's out in March.
Examples will be made.
On your knees! Keep still.
So Mario plus Rabbids was one of the great announcements of 2017, and it was one of the great games of 2017. Now, they didn't necessarily show off a hell of a lot about this expansion for the game that includes Donkey Kong's Adventure, but they got a musical act going. It was awesome. Go and check it out. We love live music. We love live music from our video games, the games that make us super excited. You should go and check it out. It was a nice little thing they just kind of dropped in there to remind us about the release date, which is June 26, so it's not far away. And just go and check it out. It was really cool. So they also debuted some footage for Skull and Bones. Now, we saw this game debuted last year, and the conversation was immediately around the fact that A, it was kind of using a lot of assets from Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and B, it was kind of in competition with Sea of Thieves. Now, Sea of Thieves has come out for the Xbox One, underwhelmed, and what my initial take when I saw this Skull and Bones trailer is that there was more content in that game trailer than in the entirety of Sea of Thieves. I'm really excited by what they're doing. It is another one of those shared world sort of experiences, but there seems to be a lot more depth to it. There seems to be more mechanics that are embedded. There seems to be more to do, and that's really important in a shared world experience, and it seems like Ubisoft is on the money when it comes to Skull and Bones.
We were alone at the top of the food chain. Well, we thought we were. In a dog-eat-dog world, we were wolves. And wolves hunt in packs.
We also saw Elijah Wood come out there, Elijah Wood of Lord of the Rings, Frodo, come out and talk about Transference VR, which was debuted a few years ago. It's a VR horror game. It's really focusing on the psychological side of things. It's really quite cool what they're doing. It's coming late this year. I'm intrigued to see more about this thing. They seem to be leaning really heavily into it. They're speaking very strongly about, and they're really bullish about what this game could be. Ubisoft's given Elijah the platform, and I hope that him and his team can deliver.
Help me! Help me! Please! Dad? Why are you doing this?
I love you, son. I love you with all of my heart.
Part of the way through the conversation about the next game, I was sitting there thinking this needs to go in the bad pile, or maybe even the ugly pile, because I was worried about the future of it for Ubisoft. I'm talking about Starlink Battle for Atlas. I knew someone who played the game only a few months ago. Can't divulge, sorry. But he said that it still included the Toys to Life component. Game was okay, but they were sticking with it. That still seems to be the case. The game exists. The game has shown us more about what it is. We kind of get it as opposed to most other Toys to Life games to this point. There's a real emphasis on story, on connected narrative, on the adventure. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, oh look, this all looks great, but I don't want to buy any more Toys to Life stuff. And then Star Fox came along, as in Nintendo's Star Fox. Nintendo and Ubisoft are buddy-buddy at the moment. Miyamoto was sitting in the crowd and he almost seemed shocked when Eves came out and he presented this kind of replica of what they'd created, the R-Wing and Star Fox in the game. They'd given him a replica of it and then spoken about how if you pick up Starlink on the Switch, you're going to get Star Fox in your game and he's going to somehow interact with whatever it is they're doing there. My tone changed. Maybe that's the inner Nintendo fanboy, but all of a sudden I'm like, oh, maybe I just need to buy the base game at the very least. That still worries me though going forward, because that might mean far too many Toys to Life objects suddenly emerge in my house. My wife won't be too happy with that. But Ubisoft, you did good.
Could use a little help here. Can you hear me?
Let's rock and roll, boys!
The Crew 2 is getting a beta. It begins June 21st. Plenty to be excited about there. The game comes out June 29th. Ubisoft showed off a little bit more about the game, but really they were just forcing the point that the Crew 2 demo, or beta, sorry, is coming really soon and that people should go and pick it up. They didn't say too much more than that, but that's all they needed to say really. And the last thing that we need to discuss is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now, we saw in the case of Origins that released last year had its Egyptian setting. Ubisoft is really leaning more heavily into RPG aspects and applying them to this franchise. And they've dived even deeper in the case of Odyssey. We're seeing conversational dialogue, on top of those RPG systems that were already embedded last year. We're getting multiple protagonists, male and female, both look awesome. I think I might even err towards the female character there, Cassandra. She was really cool. The combat looked awesome. The leveling systems are still there. The gear and the levels of that gear and the rarities of that gear, that's all still there. They were doing really cool things. I'm glad that this vein of form that we saw in the case of Origins is continuing in Odyssey. He's hoping they can deliver again. The game's coming out on October 5th.
You carry the blade of Leonidas. Act like it. As you write your Odyssey across the mountains and the seas, remember, the fate of Greece journeys with you.
And now for some of the not so good aspects of Ubisoft's E3 2018 press conference. And the one thing that I really, really want to focus on, and it's something I spoke about with Bethesda as well, is the bad attempts at comedy. Guys, this is a press conference. It is an official thing. It is a very formal thing. I know we're the games industry, and I know as a result things are far more casual. But you're delivering to stakeholders. You're delivering to stockholders. Bit of professionalism, please. If you're going to go for a joke, you better bloody be sure that the thing's going to work. They didn't quite get it right here. It wasn't as bad as what we saw out of Bethesda, but just there was one particular thing, and you'll see a clip of it for Trials. Just horrible. And they kind of really persisted with it. It was not necessary. Just get up there, demo your game, show us what it's about, impress us with the game, not your attempts at humor.
Trials is all about crashing with style and getting up again.
And finally, whilst they kind of did good in some ways, I was disappointed with how Ubisoft chose to bring up Rainbow Six Siege and For Honor. Now these games have been very popular for them and have generated lots of sales and have been, they've got really vibrant, loving communities following them. They kind of killed the momentum for their conference though by dropping those little things in here and saying, look, we're adding this new DLC, or we're doing this, or we're talking about our community, which is great, but they should have done it in the pre-show. Ubisoft did have a pre-show here, and it was a golden opportunity for them to show off some of the things they were going to do for both of those games and what they might do for Ghost Recon, Wildlands, etc, etc. It wasn't the right time or place, and it kind of detracted from the show just a little bit.
That is like the greatest injury to ever happen to me, only because it brought Siege to me.
I've been doing this for what? Since year one, season one, right? And I failed, and then finally we started succeeding. Yeah. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna come back.
Eu recebi sorriso, uma lágrima, uma emoção, riso de umas pessoas que eu nunca vi na minha vida, que eram torcedores da BD.
Acho que você tem que realmente botar toda a sua emoção dentro do jogo.
finally, I'm going to talk about the things that are a little bit ugly about this conference, and realistically there's only one, and it's not even something that Ubisoft specifically did, it's what they didn't do. They didn't announce a new Splinter Cell. They teased us with Sam Fisher, or Michael Ironside, appearing in Ghost Recon Wildlands DLC earlier this year, and everyone got in a frenzy that we were going to be getting a new Splinter Cell game. And it didn't happen. And whilst Ubisoft is not beholden to release these games at all, it's been a long time since we saw Sam Fisher now, 2013 in Blacklist, and we're due. And I was really quite surprised, and I think a large portion of the internet was really quite surprised that we didn't see Sam Fisher in any way, shape or form. Now, are Ubisoft going to pull one out of the hat and actually drop Sam Fisher on the PlayStation stage? Who knows? I could be coming back to you in a few hours saying how wrong I was about this particular point, but it was the only sour note out of the self-contained press conference that we saw from Ubisoft 2018.
Yeah, a few I've heard they don't make them like me anymore. There was this other guy, though, Army Infiltration. He wore a bandana or something.
I heard he finally retired.
Really?
Yep.
It's only me.
Sam.
Yeah.
You got it.
I do.
And so that concludes another episode of The Insider. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing to the channel. All those buttons are down below here, and hit that notification bell. That way you're alerted to any new video from Patched, the Video Games Club, The Insider, Player 2 Plays, the Late Game Review, a whole bunch of our E3 content. There's awesome stuff there that you should be checking out. Please make sure to do so. For written content, make sure to visit the website player2.net.au, where you'll find reviews, previews, opinion pieces, news, features, the Player 2 Writers Draft, the E3 Hub, which is getting constantly updated with these videos and a whole bunch of our other written content as well. It's all there, it's all contributed by some of the best talent in Australia. So please make sure to go and check it out. We're also on Patreon, patreon.com/player2au. Consider kicking in a few dollars. At the lower tiers, you'll get early access to a whole range of different episodes, including Patched, the Insider, the Video Games Club. And at higher tiers, you'll get exclusive episodes from those shows, and at the top tier, you'll get to join us in the monthly Player 2 podcast. There's some enticing offers there. You're helping to make the Player 2 dream grow, so please consider kicking in even a few bucks. We'd love for you to come along with us on this ride. Thank you in advance. For rolling updates, you can find me at PaulJamesP2 on Twitter. The website you can find at Player2AU on Twitter. And until next time, which is Sony, and it's only a few hours away, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.